Cisco routers and iOS. So iOS is an older terminology. Okay. Now there are a lot of different kind of operating systems which are there in today's scenario. But earlier it used to be iOS only. Okay, and what is iOS is basically it's Internet Network Operating System. In general, the images on the routers or switches on the Cisco routers or switches used to known as Cisco iOS. Now there are a lot of iOS. I mean not iOS, I should say. There are a lot of different kind of operating systems are available on routers and switches. A lot of different. But I mean, for you, you don't just focus on different operating systems or particularly on iOS. You just focus on the operating system. That there is a operating system in any device. It could be anything. I mean, there is a. I mean, if you Google, let me show you the evolution. I mean, if you Google the evolution of iOS, you will get something. I'm not sure. It should be there. Should be something. Some good link. I mean, you can let me fetch it if I have it. If I get any good link or maybe evolution of Cisco iOS, not iOS, because iOS goes by not this one, and there is iOS XE. So I mean you can this is one the link where you see iOS XE, iOS XO and XOS. So don't ask me the difference. I'm not gonna tell you now that what are the difference between these operating system. There is a so basically on in a layman's language, it's evolution of operating system. iOS had certain features on a supply. I mean, again, hardware is specific. There were different versions. So it's just like, I mean, if we have to simply put it, it's just like addition of different features over different versions or over different major releases. I mean, you can do a Google yourself, but this is not a this is a good link. Maybe you can, if you are really interested in reading about operating system and its types and how it's got evolved over the years, and then what is, how the licensing and all. So you can go through it maybe if you want. Yeah. This is a good Cisco blog. Maybe you can go through it very much in detail. This one is not in detail, but still, I mean, you can go through it. And there is nothing very important if you don't read it that you will miss. So yeah. So Cisco routers and all they were built around Cisco iOS Internet Network Operating System. Okay, so our learning would be basically based on iOS. What are the different kind of syntax which are available? What kind of commands you can execute, and then what kind of you can say the output or the result you can expect out of those commands. Okay, so yeah, and the purpose of iOS is again, what is the purpose of operating system in any machine? So that's what the iOS for Cisco routers and switches. Okay, now introduction to routers. That what is a router? So it's again, I mean, if you see it from technology perspective, what are the different elements available in it? It's just like a computer. I mean, it all has it. I mean, it's have all the components like RAM, NVRAM, flash, ROM, console, and all. So we'll talk about it now. I mean, but I mean, console is again then what you access. I mean, it's a similar. I mean, memory and memory, both kind of memory, RAM or ROM, what you have in your PCs, RAM and permanent drive and that kind of stuff, operating system and all. So we'll see it. So what is ROM is, read-only memory. It contains what your boots have a post program. Flash memory where, images are kept, or this is basically erasable or reprogrammable read-only memory. So this is where your configuration or your images are saved. And then RAM, RAM is based, random access memory, what you have in your, in your laptops or in your PCs or in your computers. That is where it basically contains, RAM actually contains the running configuration. So I'll tell you what is running configuration, what is startup configuration. There is another component known as NVRAM, which actually contains startup configuration register. You will come to know what is configuration register. So what happens when you save anything, it gets into your flash, but then startup configuration is NVRAM. So what happens whenever your device boots up, it actually fetch the configuration from the NVRAM, but then from NVRAM it gets loaded into RAM. So whenever you make any changes, the changes are made in the running configuration. We'll see when we'll do the lab, we will understand it better. So those changes are actually done in running configuration. Then when you save it, then it actually gets saved. Then your startup configuration gets changed. So we'll see all these things. Okay. What is ROM? ROM again, that it has a certain systems or functions which are stored in this memory. It basically, you see, maintains instructions to power on or self test. There are post test and all. What happens when any router boots up, there are tests which happens. I'll tell you in detail that what happens in post test, or how this bootstrap program runs and all. So we will talk about all this. RAM, so I mean, you will come to know. I mean, these points for you at the moment doesn't make any sense, that how it stores routing table or arc cache and all. So when we'll do the lab, at that time I'll show you that where it is in the RAM, where it is in the flash, where you can see the configuration register and all. Flash is again just like a hard drive. Yeah. So where, I mean, I told you, right? Maybe I'll show you some other day. I had the older flash, which I'll show you. So that is the permanent memory. Interfaces, okay, interfaces. So interfaces are basically where, so interfaces are just like the NIC cards, for example, what you have in your PC. But a PC can have, because PC is usually considered as a host. So at least it will have one NIC card. It can have multiple, but then it is not responsible for routing and anything, correct? So for router, what happens on one interface or on one entry point, you actually, get the frame, and then you route it or you process it, and then it forwarded further uh, through another interface. I mean, again, I'm saying lab would be a better way to understand, but and there are different kind of interfaces. So what you don't need to bother about, you just need to know about what is fast ethernet, what is ethernet, serial, maybe, yeah, serial. This is gone, this is unique, this is unit. I mean, this is ancient technology. Even, I mean, nobody uses serial these days. So yeah, so you'll come to know that what are the different kind of speeds under these kind of things. What is loopback? What is console? What is Oxford? So when I'll show you router as well. And when we log in, then at that time I'll also show you using the commands, the interfaces, what different kind of interfaces a particular router, particular model of router has. Okay. And then these are internal components, RAM, ROM, flash, CPU, again, CPU, interfaces, NVRAM and configuration register. These are components, I'll tell you. I mean, I briefed you about them, but then we'll see that where is configuration register is stored. What is the value of configuration register in a router? What happens if we change the configuration register value in any router and such? So we will talk about all this. Okay, router power on boot up sequence. Okay. So when you power on, there is a post test which happens. Then there is a bootstrap code which runs, load and run. Then it finds iOS basically. Then it loads your iOS. Then it finds the configuration from the startup configuration. Then it loads these configuration, and then run the configuration. Configured iOS software, whatever is running. I mean, so that there is a process. I mean, you should know this, but even if you don't know this, then not a major challenge. But in the beginning, I mean, at least you should know that. So maybe when we will boot up a router, I'll show you that I mean, how you boot up any operating system. Like, for example, not in Windows, but if you boot up your Linux operating system, everything comes up on your screen, right? that what is getting executed. So at that time you will see that different kind of lines are getting executed. That is where I'll show you that this is what test, this is what test, and this is what test. Okay, you don't need to know a boot sequence. Okay, this is again I mean, if you change the boot sequence, what happens? So not now, not now. Maybe let's go into a router. Okay, first. Okay, this is a 2600, a very old router. You won't see it. It's end of life, end of support. So when I say end of life, OEM or the company whosoever is the manufacturer, they do not. I mean Cisco, of course. This is Cisco 2600. They do not manufacture it further. And end of support is means, let's say there is a product line which is going on, and today I announced that end of life, that after 31st March 2023 this device is end of life. What does it mean? That we will no longer produce this device, and then there would be end of support. Let's say the end of support for 2600 would be for example 31st March 2030. So what they do, I mean there are companies, there are enterprises which are running on this router, right? But they cannot straight away say that we are doing end of support from tomorrow, right? Because it's already deployed in their productions, in their environments. So they cannot do. They give you, the OEMs always give you the time that we have done, end of life, or end of life have we have assigned, announced, and this is where the end of support is. So what does that mean is, you have like 7, whatever the time they have come up with, this is the time wherein you will get the support if you have support license with us. After that, we won't be responsible if for this device if anything goes down. For example, if this device goes down, there is a problem with the hardware goes faulty, then it won't be replaced by Cisco. So in that scenario, you have to install a new device, and installing a new device will take some time. Implementing it, deploying it, configuring it will take some time, and that time would be, you could say, it could be a outage in your environment. Let's say this device is down, this is some critical device where a lot of data is going on, or a lot of data travels through this particular router, and it would be an outage scenario. So that is the reason, I mean, that is how this, and all these things in business operates or functions. So these are the internal components. I mean, this is where the, this is power supply, this is where the flash is, this is where the boot ROM is, these are the RAM slots, this is where, see, I mean, if you open up a router, it's, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a computer, doing different function in different format. I mean, in any device, it always has your memory, or RAM and all. So that's okay. Terminal console, or maybe I'll show you. Okay, I have one cable which we used to have earlier, but I think nowadays, okay, I also have got the flash card one. So you see, in terms of memory, we have like 500 GB, 1 TB, 2 terabyte, or 3 terabyte. Earlier router used to have like 64 MB. I don't know if you can see it or not. 64 MB flash card, or maybe 128 MB, or very bigger, so maybe 500. I mean, I have seen 1 GB flash card, bigger routers also. But I mean, these are the maximum capacities. This is 128 MB uh, flash memory. So these used to be, external. I mean, if you see in this, where is the other side? This is actually the other side. The other side, it used to be flash slot in 2600. Again, what is this? This is a roll over cable, or a console cable, or a serial or console cable. Actually, this used to be like this. I mean, on one end, it used to be a serial port like this. If you have seen, does anybody have seen serial port? But DB9, what you call 9 pin connector, and on the other hand, they used to have RJ40 connector. What used to happen earlier? I mean, maybe if your laptop or your PC have a serial port, then you connect those serial port to your PC and then RJ45 to your device. You see, okay, this is here in this diagram. In this diagram, this is a RJ45 to DB9 converter actually. So that is where RJ45 is plugged into that DB9 converter. I mean, if you know, no, this is not even a DB9. This is a DB25. Okay, so I mean, this is what we'll see. I mean, this is how you access console port. Then what are the bit states and all, parity and all you can set. We'll talk about it. Okay, 1 second. Outer LED indication. All we'll talk about that. Maybe let me open up. The 1941, 2901, 2911. These are all very old routers. You won't see them anymore. 2811. So let's say I'm gonna put one 2811, and let's say I'm gonna put another 2811. So if you click on this, if you do a single click, what you see is different kind of modules. These are different kind of modules which used to be earlier. So let's not talk about. Okay. So if you see, this is a blank at the moment. This let me zoom in. Okay, so this is the front side and this is the back side. You see, this is where that compact flash which I showed you was inserted in this particular module, in this particular model. And then this is a console port, this is a aux port. Okay, this is your power supply. These are two fast Ethernet ports. All right. So what you can do, you can also in packet tracer for practice, you can add additional modules. Let's say I need more fast Ethernet ports. Okay, the device is on. So you see, this is on. This green is in packet tracer. So we are not learning packet tracer. This is green. 1 second. So what does it mean? The device is on. So let me power it off. This is power off. Power on, power off. I cannot add a module when the device is on, right? So let me add another fast Ethernet port. Not compatible. Okay. How about this one? This is also not compatible. Then which one? Okay. Why? Okay. So fast Ethernet, I have added. Now let's boot this up. I mean, I have powered it on. So let's see configuration. The device is still booting. You see, this is what. Let me power it off. Let me show you the boot up again. See, now your device is program load test complete. You see, read only Roman initialized. You'll come to know. You see, 1 second, device is still booting. Please wait until all right. So this is what flash and all. Now what it is asking is, would you like to? Okay, it will come here. Would you like to enter into initial configuration dialog? So what happens is, whenever any device boot up or whenever you boot up your Linux operating system, it asks you, it gives you or it pops up initial configuration dialog, right? That what is the host name, what is the IP address, what is the DNS server which you want to configure, what is the kind of IP address you want to configure, DSCP or static. You do all those initialization, right? So that is what a router or any device also offers to you. So I mean, if you want to configure those initial things in this initial using this initial configuration dialog, you can. If you don't want to get into initial configuration dialog, just enter, or maybe because I already, you see here it's already N, so it took as no. So that is where it came to this CLI mode. Now we will talk about different kind of modes, that what are the. So this particular mode you see greater than arrow, this is known as user exec mode. You see. Now let me show you what are the commands available. So if you want to see any commands on any particular mode, you can always put a question mark. So you see what are the kind of commands which are available. connect, disable, disconnect, enable, exit, logout, ping, resume, SSH, show, telnet, terminal, trace route, etc. So we can't do much from here. So if you need to configure anything, if you want to configure any parameter in your router, you need to go into enable mode, or what we call it as privilege exec mode, or exec is just your execution, privileged exec mode. So what I'm going to do is, you see, enable means it enables it. So if I'm going to write it as enable, but what you also can do E, and then it is not taking anything with E because there are two commands which are available with E. So either I can do X and then tab, it will take the complete command. So the keywords which are matching in multiple commands, then it will not give you any sort of, it will not do the auto completion of the command use if you use tab. So if I put E and then if I put tab, then it will take the whole command. Even if I don't put the whole command, if I even if I do just en and I enter, it will go into enable mode. So I call it as enable mode. It is also known as privileged exec mode. All right, now see the commands which are available in this mode. So many commands. Yeah, now there would be a command. If you want to configure anything, there would be a configure command. You see, enter the configuration mode. If you want to configure anything, you enter into conf. So if you do co, that's a co tab, it is not taking because there are connect, config and configure with co. So let's say con and tab. Again, it's not taking because there are two things, connect, configure. So I'm going to do conf tab configure. Now configure what? Configure, enter. So it will ask terminal, memory, network. I'm going to go ahead with terminal. So whatever we are doing on this terminal. This is what we call it as terminal. So what you are seeing is it's the terminal. Okay, you're configuring it on terminal. So now we are in the configuring terminal. Now do a question mark. Now you see a lot of configuration parameter which are available right in front of you. Okay, so before that, let's say I want to come out of this particular mode. What I'll do is exit. So now I came back to privilege exit mode. Or maybe if you have not written, you can take a snapshot of this and then maybe we'll move ahead. All right. So now privilege exit mode. All right. And then if you do a further exit, you are back into privilege, exit mode.
Exit
Correct?
mode,
User
sir.
exit mode. Now enable, configure. And even if let's say if I configure anything, there is another command. If you put end, you will come back to, it will, for example, configure terminal interface F0/0. Even if I do end, what end actually does, exit will take you one mode back. Basically, if you are in a privilege exit mode, or if you are in a configuration mode, or if you are in a sub configuration mode. So if you type exit, you will go back to your previous mode. But if you end, it will take you directly to privilege exit mode. Okay. All right. So let's say if I want to configure
Yes,
anything,
sir.
let me show you some certain things. So if you want to check anything, if you want to see some of the outputs, then the command is show command. Okay. Do a show and question mark. You see, there are a lot of things which you can see. So what I want to see on this device, that what are the number of interfaces what I have. So the command for that is show. I want to see the IP information, show IP question mark. Now there are a lot of things which are available, but I am interested in interface information at this moment. Interface, IP interface status and configuration. So what I'm going to do is IP interface. Now what? There are different kind of interfaces which are available. If you want to see specific to a specific, if you want to see specific detail around any specific interface, dialer, these are older ones because this is an older device. You won't see all this dialer and all these days. And then there are Ethernet, fast Ethernet, gigabit Ethernet, loopback, CLI tunnel, and stuff. So let's say I'm going to see the brief information, brief summary of IP See, brief summary of IP status and configuration. So what I'm going to do is show IP interface brief. You can write down this command. You will use this your entire life. What it does, it shows you interface, then all interfaces available, IP address unassigned or assigned, what is this okay and all, the status is okay, method you will come to know later. I'll tell you what is the status. These are administratively down. So there are two things. Let's say the interface is up, but the cable is not connected in it, so it will go down. And then the line put, this is protocol, line protocol. So this is one device, or maybe I'll show you here what is meant by line protocol, and we will talk again in detail just for a brief intro. This is a port, let's say fast Ethernet 0/0. This is a port, let's say fast Ethernet 0/0. I do a no shut, this comes up, the status is up, this is also up, but the line protocol would be down if both the ports which are connected, I mean if the ports connected to each other doesn't have cable connected at both the ends. For example, let's say this device has cable connected at this end, but this router doesn't have cable connected at this end. So when you go to this router, when you do show IP interface brief, it will show you interface fast Ethernet 0/0, IP address I haven't assigned. So unassigned, okay, unsaid, this would be, what should be the status? Up or down? Because I haven't shown you. This is administratively down, so it will show you as up. But the line protocol would be down because the other side, my connecting, my peer or whatever the device this cable again connected to further is not, I mean the cable is not connected to that device. So the line protocol would be down. How that works, I'll tell you that later. Okay. At the moment we are just seeing the commands. Okay, so let's go into configuration. So you can write configure means if you want to enter into configuration mode. Okay, configure terminal is the command to enter into configuration mode. Now what I want to configure, I had a lot of things I want to configure. There are options available, but I want to configure the interfaces. So where is the interface command?
Above IP.
This is the interface. Interface question mark. Then again kind of interfaces. What I have is fast Ethernet. Then what? 0 to 9 is the numbers. So I have 0/0. Okay. So now this brings you another point which I'll tell you just after this. So now what you want to configure? I want to configure IP address. So the command is subconfig. Now I'm into config if. You see, this is config if. Yeah. Config if, which means we are in a sub configuration mode. Now we are going to configure parameters under that particular interface. Yeah. So first parameter what we're going to configure is IP address, or maybe let me do a no shut first. So what I'm going to do is it is administratively down, so it is shut down. So when you put shut down under any interface, it will go down. What you did, you put a command administratively to make it shut. So to negate that command in Cisco iOS, generally in Cisco operating system, usually in most of the cases, in most of the devices, if there is a command, let's say let's say shut down, then the negate of that particular command would be with a no command. So if it's shut down, if I want to make it up, I will do a no space shutdown. Okay. So any command, and then the negate command of that command would be a no as a prefix. So no shutdown. So what I get the message? This is a console message because I am working on the console at the moment. Okay. So I'll tell you. Maybe I showed you maybe when I'll show you that what is the difference between console and all. So this is a console message that or the terminal message, not even, I won't say even console message. This is a terminal message. The terminal could be using, terminal access could be using console or using remote access, I mean SSH, remote connection or anything. Yeah. So this is a terminal message. Now I cannot run a show command from a configuration or sub-configuration mode. But what you can do is you can always run a show command from a configuration or sub-configuration mode if I put a prefix of do. So if I put do show IP, but then you don't get context help when you put do command. Let's say I am doing tab, it doesn't take. So you have to write it. Interface, I'm not going to write it as complete. It will take it, I know. Brief. You see, the status has got changed to status up, but the line protocol is still down. And here what was the status? Administratively down. Okay. Now there is no IP address here. So I'm going to assign one IP address. So the command is IP address. Now ab.c.a.b.c.d, which means IP address, or DSCP. If you want to assign the IP address to this particular interface using DSCP, then you can use DSCP command, or you assign the IP address. For example, I'm going to assign 10.10.10.10. Now what it is asking? It is asking IP subnet mask. In what format? A.B.B.C.D, which means in the format of what? 255.255.0.0 or whatever in that format. So let's say I'm making it as /24. I'm using it as classless. If it was classful, then what would be the subnet? Let's say this was a classful address, then what would be the subnet?
It's 255.0.0.0.
Correct. But I'm gonna assign it as /24. Okay. Done. Now let me do an end, and I can run a show command from here. You see, the IP address is method got changed to what? Manual. I manually assigned this IP address. The line protocol is still down. Okay. Okay, now let me show you another thing. I told you that there is something called as running configuration. And where does that running configuration stays? It stays in the RAM. Okay. And there is another something called as startup configuration. So there are two configurations. One is known as running configuration, and another one is known as startup configuration. So I'm going to show you the running configuration at the moment. Show running configuration. So what and all you see, all these things which you are seeing here. For example, current configuration itne bytes, these many bytes. This is the version of my iOS. These are some things which are by default. I mean, these are pre-configured. I mean, these are by default there in the configuration. What we have configured is this much. Interface fast Ethernet 0.0, and this is the IP. Duplex and speed it has already taken by default. We will talk about those, what you can configure under duplex, what are the options available actually. And again, you see, we haven't done anything under interface fast Ethernet 0/1. So what you are seeing, that what is the default configuration under this interface? No IP address, duplex auto, speed auto, shutdown. So if I do a no of no, which means what it will become? IP address. Correct? That is what we have done here. So I mean, this is a negate command. Already, if I do a negate of negate, then it will be starting with IP address only. All right. Now let me show you another thing. So show startup configuration. It's blank. There is nothing in the startup configuration at the moment. So if I want to save the configuration, I can always do a command like write or write memory. So if I am doing write memory, what happens? The running configuration gets saved into startup configuration. Now there is another command. Copy running configuration into startup configuration. But this is, you see, destination file name is startup config. So what you learned is you can also save the running configuration or whatever the configuration file. So basically what we are doing, it's a sort of Linux command, you can say. I'm copying data of one file into another file. So this file can be running configuration or whatever, and this file can be startup configuration or whatever. I'm configuring, basically, I'm copying the data of one file to another. All right. So yeah, okay, done. Now let's see. So startup configuration. Now you see everything, whatever is there in the running configuration has come in routing configuration as well. Sorry, startup
That is
configuration.
setup composition.
Yeah. All right. So okay, what we're gonna do is we already have saved. Let's go to packet tracer. Let's put a cable between these guys. Do you think the cable will work? Let's see. I have connected fast Ethernet to fast Ethernet. This cable is red, which means the line protocol is down. Okay, let me go to this router. Let's go to CLI. That initial dialog has come. Okay, let me show you what happens under this initial dialog. I'm going to do yes. You see? Yes, I'm writing yes. Enter host name. You can change host name, or there is a command I'll show you on the other CLI. Router, it's whatever is in the bracket. If you don't want to change it, then you press enter, it will take it as it is. Enable enter enable secret. So this is basically asking for enable password. I'm putting it as and okay, it is not taking default. So let's say Cisco 123. Enter enable password. Okay, that is enable secret, not enable password. I'll tell you what is the difference. Enable secret should be different from enable password. Enter virtual terminal password management. All right. Management network from above interfaces. Okay, what should I put as? Let's say fast Ethernet. F0/0. Okay, this is not gonna take it as. We need to do a complete interface. All right, fast Ethernet 0/0. Okay. Configure IP address on this? No, I'm saying no. Enter section 2 or go to iOS without saving. I'm not saying, I'm going back. What I wanted to show you is how you see the stuff in the configuration dialog when you enter into it. There could be multiple things which you can configure from there, or you say a no in that dialog and you configure it from here. So now what? Enable configuration terminal, or maybe let me end show IP interface. So if I want to see the interfaces status and the IP address, this is the show command which I run. Basically show IP interface brief. Okay, now let's get into configure terminal interface fast Ethernet 0/0. I'm putting tab to show you all the commands. IP address, for example, 10.10.10.11, because this is the connecting what address. So when two let's say this is 10.10.10.10, this has to be 10.10.10.11 or whatever. This should be they should be in the same L3 subnet. Otherwise, how will they communicate? Right? Getting my point?
Yes.
If they are not in same subnet, they cannot communicate to each other. To communicate between two different layer 3 interface, you again will need a router. So this segment would be in the same layer 3 subnet, right? This could be another one like 20.20.10.10. This one and this further. So they have to be in the same subnet. I hope you're getting this point, that why they need to be in the same subnet. So I have assigned this IP address and let's do a no shot. And then you see the line protocol changed to up, which means you will see a green light between these two. Okay, these are green. The line is green, which means the line protocol is up. Let me do an end, or let me do an end. Show startup config. It should be blank. Show running config. Whatever we have configured is here. Now what I'm gonna do is write memory, show startup config. Now it has what it should have, copied from running configuration, show IP interface brief. Now let me test if I have assigned the right this IP address on this IP address to myself or not, and if I am reachable on this IP address is not or not, then there is a command. I'll tell you how it works. The command name is ping command. Okay, so you can write ping. What it does, it is basically for you to understand at this moment is the reachability test. Okay, so whatever the IP you ping, it will send some ICMP packet. I'll tell you there are different kind of ICMP packets. What it sends ICMP echo and then it gets the echo reply. So that is why I echo you, you echo reply, which means we are connected. So this is to verify the connectivity between two addresses or two mediums or whatever. But at the moment, I'm going to do a self ping to verify whether I have correctly assigned this IP address to myself or not. What is my IP address? Is this. So when the ping goes successful, you see this kind of response. So now this is my IP address 10.10.10.11. And what is the IP address of this end? 10.10.10.10. You see, when I'm hovering my mouse on this router, we are seeing the status of the interfaces. Now see what? Fast Ethernet. You see? Let me show you again. Interface status we can see port, fast Ethernet, link up, VLAN we will talk about what is VLAN in switching, IP address is this, IPv6 there is nothing, and then these are the physical address, hardware addresses or MAC addresses assigned to this interface. Yeah. So now what I'm gonna do, they should be able to reach each other because they are in the same subnet. I am able to ping here on the IP of which is my IP on this interface, which is 10.10.10.11, and this is again fast Ethernet 0/0. The IP address is 10.10.10.10. So they are in the same subnet, which means they can ping each other. So now let me ping from router 2 to router 1. Why it's frozen. Yeah, what is happening? My mouse is not functioning. Now I do it. So let's ping. Before pinging, if I want to see what is my IP address, I'll see show IP interface brief. Okay, my IP address is 10.10.10.10. So let me do a self ping. Working. Now let me do a ping to my neighbor or my peer. What is the IP? 11. It is doing a ping. It should work. And now where that I sent 5 packets. If you see this message, sending 500 byte ICMP equals to 10.10.10.11. Timeout is 2 seconds. Success rate is 80% because my first packet got lost. Only
Yes, sir.
4 packets out of 5 reached there, and this is the round trip minimum, average, and maximum time. Now, where that first packet actually went? Why did I not get the first ping reply or response for my first packet? So when I'll teach you ping or when I'll teach you ICMP ping, how it works, at that time I'll tell you where did it get lost. Okay. So why now when I'll do ping now it will be all files 100% success ratio. I'll tell you why. So you'll come to know that why. Initially I did not know the answer. I mean, I did not know the MAC address. I did not know about the IP, that who has that IP address. So we'll
So
talk about it.
is it regarding ARP?
Yeah, it is because of ARP, correct. So
Okay,
we
okay.
talk about ARP. When we talk about ARP, then I'll tell you that why where it got lost. What is the reason? Okay, so we have this reachability. Now, so if I do show IP interface brief, I can see this is everything is up what we have assigned. Okay, there is another command we will talk about in that later, but you can see there is a protocol known as CDP, Cisco Discovery Protocol. So if I do a show CDP neighbors, I can see what are the devices, what are my connected neighbor devices. It will show you this is the device ID. This is the local interface, my interface. This is the whole time. This is the capability. We don't talk about it at the moment. Capability is nothing but router. This is the platform model of the router. And this is the port ID where my neighbor is connected. So let me do one thing. This is my router from where I'm checking. Let me change the host name of this router. For example, what is the command host name? I'm going to make it as R1. All right, enter. So see, it has changed to the router has got changed to what? R1 now. Now let's run show CDP neighbor again. My local is what? Device ID is router. Who is the router? The other guy. That is his device ID. So let me configure that other router as well with another host name. Configure terminal host name. Let's say R2. Okay. Now let's go to here. You see? Okay, sorry, it doesn't tell you actually the host name, but the device ID. If it was a switch connected to the other end, it will show you here as switch. Okay, and this is again where it is connected, how it is connected, and all that. So we will talk about CDP again, but it came to my mind, so I shared it with you. All right. So these are the basic things which you see, and the mode, different kinds of mode which are available on the router. These are the modes. What we do is okay. So the configuration mode, what I keep on calling configuration mode, the complete name is global configuration, but nobody says global configuration. It's just global configuration mode, and it is again what it says is specific configuration mode. So those are actually known as sub configuration mode. Okay. All right. Then again, I just showed you what these modes are. Yeah, disable or exit or whatever. CLI command modes I have already showed you. Exit. There is another method of exiting. Control Z. So config terminal. Okay. So what I did is conf t. So what it is doing, translating it. You'll come to know. We haven't assigned any domain address, so it doesn't take conf. This is taking it as conf t as conf without space t, taking it as anything as a name. So what it is doing is it is trying to resolve it on a DNS server of 255.255.255.255, but it will not work. So let me try to break it if it breaks it. Yeah, I'll do it again. And then how do I break it? Control Shift 6. Let's say if it is happening, it will keep on happening for a longer time. So what I do is I'll press Control Shift and then 6. It will immediately break it. So what I was about to configure to show you. How do I come out of the configuration mode? Either I can do and or exit, and will take me from the current mode, whatever that mode is, to privilege mode, and the exit will take me one mode back. So what I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna type exit, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a shortcut Control plus Z. So when I do a Control Z, it again takes me back to uh,
Sir,
uh,
sir, I want to ask you something regarding this 255.255.255
why it is
translation.
going on 255 or 255.
Yes, sir, as it is not connected to internet, then how can it? Oh,
So why it is taking as no, that is fine. It is not connected to internet. But then there should be some DNS configuration there. So I'll tell you, not now, that why it is taking it as so it is basically taking DNS server as 255.255.255.255. What is the logic? What is the reason? That we will talk about it later. So when you say it is not connected to internet, I mean, if it's connected to internet or not, my device does not know that if it is connected to internet or not. But whenever I put any keyword, if a DNS is configured, it will try to resolve it using that DNS server, the name to IP resolution it will try to do. For DNS resolution, you don't need internet connect. Internet connectivity you need, I mean, in your understanding, what you're thinking, for any DNS name resolution, you need DNS server config. Sorry, you need internet connectivity. No, internet connectivity you only need, for example, when you do any name resolution, when you access internet, your request goes to internet, because those DNS servers, whatsoever you are accessing, is hosting or is have that name to IP resolution. If you are working in an enterprise, for example, in company, there are a lot of URLs or host names which are configured. Those would be resolved by the local DNS server or the DNS server of the enterprise. So basically, the idea is it is resolved by DNS. It could be a internet hosted DNS in terms of public URL. It could be a local DNS or an enterprise DNS for the internal domains or internal IPs or internal host name. Getting the point?
Yes, sir.
But the questions would be, what is 255.255.255? Why it is taking it as DNS name server, or I mean, or DNS only? Wherever, but we don't have any DNS convert. So I'll tell you why it takes. Okay. So these are the basics, of all right. So let's talk about, I mean, we already have talked about these commands, these configuration commands, basic CLI commands, basically, configuration terminal to get into the, again, I mean, I don't need to tell you what is the CLI and all. This is the basic definition, what you know, that what is a CLI, what is a GUI or GUI. Yeah. So yeah, now show version. So what and all you see in the show version. So when you run a show version, you see a lot of things. You see, what is the iOS version? What is this version? This is a major version, and then 3 is a minor release. And you see uptime of the device and all. So let me show you. So show, there are a lot of commands which are under show command. I mean, these are show commands to see certain outputs, what you want to verify. So let me show you a show version command, show version. All right. So you see what we see here, show version Cisco IS software. This is 2800 software. This is actually a device name, the entire SKU, that this is what it is. And then this is the version. This is again, patch number, major and sorry, minor versions. I mean, this is a 12.0 is a major version. So there are versions, major version, minor version, and then patch release, what patch it is. And then this is again copyright and stuff, so we don't need to. And what else I should show you? Yeah, this is processor and all. This is a processor board. We don't need to know that. Too fast Ethernet. Okay, and then this is the flash size of flash, and this is the configuration register value. So you will come to know that what is the configuration register value in a router. We'll talk about that later. Okay, so and because this is a packet tracer, so here you don't see uptime. Otherwise, if you want to see, let's say you are working in your enterprise, and if you want to see that this particular router, switch, or firewall or any device is up since how many days, how many hours. So if you run a command, show version, it will show you the uptime of the device. So that is what you can see here. The uptime is 20 minutes, 20 days, 780 days, or whatever. So whatever is the uptime, since uptime is the device, since the device is up and running. So if the device gets reboot, then the uptime will be what, it will get changed. Again, this is what you know. So yeah, so show running configuration and so startup configuration command, we already have seen this. Yeah. So what do we see? This is they say So running configuration is the current configuration. So whatever you're doing currently in the configuration, whatever the changes you have made, and the startup configuration is basically the saved configuration. So when you save your running configuration, that's what we see. That's what we saw, that when we save it, it gets stored into startup configuration or an NVRAM. That is what we see. Saving configuration, again, we know copy running to start or write memory. So write memory is a better way. I mean, copy run start is again the anyway copying running into startup. Command abbreviation, yes, that I already showed you. That show configuration, you can write it as shconf, configuration terminal conf, line auxiliary is line line console. These again, when you configure line console, line auxiliary, you will see that what is the meaning of this command. Configuring a router's name and all, I already have showed you. Host name is the command. Clock and all, this is again what and all we can configure. Again, these are not something. And again, let me tell you, when you will be doing labs and you will be doing practicals, then the commands which are very necessary, which will you will do on a day, which you will run on a daily basis, the commands which I mean, and that you will remember. But then some of the commands which you do initially while you're deploying the device. For example, this is message of the day, or what we call it actually as banner. So when you log in into a device, let's say it's any company, let's say it's Wipro, and then Wipro device has certain banner that this is a Wipro and blah blah blah. So that banner is configured. So whenever you log into the device, this banner pops up and it tells you certain detail about that device or company or whatever. So I mean, these commands around banner and all, you don't need to remember, and you neither have to remember. I mean, these are one-time configuration, but the commands which you run on a daily basis are what you are most of the show commands. You because you whenever you run show commands, you see it outputs and then you verify things. Okay, so I mean that you will come to know during practice that what you want to use more and more. Again, these are some of the privilege mode commands. So we have seen show version. Let me show you show flash as well. Show flash is the permanent memory. So you see, this is where this is the image name. This is the iOS image. Okay, this is the size, and where it is stored, it's stored in the flash. Don't bother about what are these XML files. So I told you that iOS is stored in flash. So if somebody erases the flash, the device won't boot up. Okay, it will go in some different mode. I'll tell you which mode. Show flash show interfaces we have seen show IP interfaces and brief. It will show. Let me show you the output of what show interface shows you. So it shows you the interfaces in details, all the interface in details. For example, fast Ethernet 0/0 is up. Line protocol is up, which means it is connected. Hardware is this address. This is the MAC address. This is the internet address. We talked about MTU earlier, right? In the beginning, that what is the MTU? MTU, it says 1500. Bandwidth, delay, and all, don't need to worry. Reliability, received load, transmitted load, you don't need to bother. At this moment, we have done these many pings pongs. You see, 80 bytes of data has been, transferred. 9 packet inputs. One packet got dropped in the ICMP in Pico, right? ICMP Pico response got dropped. I mean, when we pinged for the first time. So that is where it says 9 packet input. Then 15 packet output. Somebody else did a 3 pinged, right? That is where this is coming. These many bytes of data. So this is all you can see here. Okay. So this is a detailed one. Now let's say show interfaces as 0/0. And if you want to see about a specific interface, you put the name of that interface along with this. I mean, followed by this. I mean, this command, and then followed by the name of the interface for which you want to see the detail. If you don't put the name, it will show you detail of all the interfaces. Now, if you want to see that what are the not commanded commands which I executed on this terminal, you can run a command show history. It will tell you the history of the commands which we executed. So you see, enable, show version, show flash, or let's see, show interface F0/1. Now it was not there earlier in this command. If I do a show history, it will come in the, you see. And after this, what command did I execute? Show history. So it will again show you that command as well, that what is the last command that you executed. All right. Terminal history and all that you can increase. I mean, so basically what it means is that how many the number of lines you can see on the terminal when you see show history. Let's say you have run like 100 of commands, but then the terminal history is set to like, let's say 25 commands. Then you won't be able to see more than 25 commands. Okay. So these are some of the commands. Passwords, yeah, passwords. Of course, passwords are there to protect or restrict the access. So there are different kind of, you know, uh, passwords which you can always configure. So we will configure. You can configure privilege secret. You can configure privilege password. You know, all these passwords you can configure. So let's say, let me show you. Let's say let's configure enable password. Enable entry level, let's say 15. We'll talk about, there are different kind of levels. You will we will learn about these levels. There are 0 to 15 levels. Each particular level has a particular role or particular sort of responsibilities, or what you can say is its authority, that if somebody is set on a level 7, then this is the stuff he can do. He cannot, he she or anyone set on level 7 cannot do more than this. So privilege 15 is the highest privilege, where he can do anything, everything, or the admin or the guy whosoever is having privilege 15 can do anything. So there are privileges. We will talk about privileges sometime, that what are the different kind of privileges and what you can do during each privilege. Okay. So these privileges actually comes handy when you actually configure role-based access control or RBAC. I mean, you are, let's say you are a system admin, but you are not allowed to do any configuration in your organization. All you can do is you can run some show command. That is where this privilege things comes in picture. I mean, that is how using this you configure its role, that what and all it can configure. So at the moment, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna configure enable. Okay, this is what I'm setting the privilege, but then not, this is not the, 1 second. What is the command? Enable. No, this is not the command. Where is it? Configure terminal. Here from the of course. How can you forget? I mean, we are going to configure anything, so we need to configure it. Yeah, from the command line. Sorry, configuration terminal. So password, and then what level? There are 7 levels. So specifies hidden password, line, or level, or what level. Let's say 15, and then let's say clear text or enable password. Let's say I'm gonna put password as Cisco 123. Converting. Okay, please use enable secret in future. Okay, I'll talk about it. I'll tell you the difference. Now let's exit this. Even let's exit this. Enable. Now it is asking for the password. Yeah. So Cisco 123. Cisco 123. Okay. The configuration terminal. So that is how you configure the enable. You also can configure one thing here. I mean, before this terminal also you can configure. I mean, to get into this terminal, to get into user exit mode, you can configure a password. I'll tell you how. Okay, so these are certain kind of passwords, what you configure, and of course, in real time, these kind of passwords are configured, but then those things are configured actually on the basis of RBAC. What we call it as RBAC is role-based access control. Nobody tells you this at CSNA level. Access control, that is where your roles are defined, that what privilege you have, what you can execute and all. And there are other tools and solutions which are integrated or used in defining this. So no, I'm not going to talk about them at this time. Okay, so those are later things, maybe sometime later. Passwords. So there are 5 passwords for our router: privilege mode 2, line console, auxiliary port. I tell you telnet password. So we'll configure these. We have configured this. I'll tell you how to configure these when we configure. Privilege mode passwords. Again, we have done enable password gates, encrypted and all. This is what we can do. Line password. Again, this is when you so basically on a aux line or there could be on a aux line, there could be multiple session actually. So I showed you, right, the console port and aux port. So in aux port, you actually connect somewhere from the terminal server, but from the console, one guy can access only one guy can access the console. But on the auxiliary line, I can define that how many connections can be simultaneously there. I mean, there are multiple people who can access the same device on the same line. So that is what we are actually defining passwords for that line. I'll show you that. So this is how they are connected on Oxford. Telnet password and all we will configure. So okay, we have done this basic lab. We have done the IP addressing, DCDD. We are not going to see again old technology, old stuff. Dynamic router protocol. Okay, you guys have packet tracer, all of you. What is the agenda or objective of routing? So basically, what you do is from one local area network or from one network to another, transferring data from one network to another network is the main agenda or the whole objective of routing. Okay, and what we do, on which layer we do routing? We do on the network layer or layer 3 basically. So when we say layer 3, IP addressing basically. So what are the device work on layer 3? Layer 3 are known as layer 3 devices. Okay. So what are the protocols which are available? Don't talk about IPX, it is old stuff. So IP layer, right? The routed protocols enables packet from one router to another using IP protocol. Okay. Not IPX. IPX, I don't know if many of you know what was the use of IPX or not. I mean, what was this protocol and all. But anyway, in today's scenario, we are working on an IP protocol. Now, and there are different kind of routing protocol which are available. I mean, what we call them as basically IPs is basically forwarding your packet from one place to another. But router also routers or routing protocols send this information about the packets from one place to another using different kind of routing protocols. So what is the router? I mean on packet forwarding from one place to another, we called it as routed protocol, which is the IP. Now the routing protocol is basically tells you about what are the routes available to reach from one place to another, and then there are additional information or details. Basically, what we are trying to do at this moment is what I need to know is that maybe this is how they are connected. What routing protocol is helping me to know that from here, how can I reach here? So that information about here is it known to this guy. How it is known? It is known there are packet exchange or information exchange that happens between these devices, and that is how they learn the route from one place to reach from this to this. There are different kind of, I mean, then routing are basically of two different kinds. One is known as static, where you define all the routes manually, that to reach from here to here, from here to here, you need to reach here. So there would be addresses which you would be manually telling them that to reach this address, reach this address, and this address is directly connected to this address. In routing protocol, we configure the routing protocol, they do some information exchange between them, and then they come to know the state of each and every one. So they come to know about what is happening here. And the manual, everything in the static, you configure everything manual. The advantage of dynamic here is if something gets changed at this particular end, let's say it's connected to this device as well, then the entire information about the new device or the routing around the same device will be propagated everywhere, and they will come to know that who is this new device or what is the route to reach to this device. So these are some of the minor differences between dynamic and static routing protocol. We'll talk about them. Now, again, I told you about the address. This is an analogy where you want to talk about it again. Maybe I'll use this. I told you in the very first class that how this works. So this is you, and let's say this is here Raj, and this is here is Ram. So how that packet action is going to happen? This guy lives in here, Jayanagar, Bangalore, and this guy lives in Mumbai. Okay. So what he's going to do? He's going to forward the packet. He's going to do a broadcast basically. Okay. That who is Ram? Who is Ram? Who is Ram? Who is Ram? So ideally Ram should respond, right? That is how your end host do a broadcast, right? In the LAN subnet, and Ram should respond that I am Ram, I am Ram. So that is how he will get to know his address. But what happens whenever this broadcast reaches to your default gateway, which is your router? Router breaks your broadcast address. When I say default gateway, what router does is the broadcast request, or maybe we will come to know that we'll again discuss about this when we'll talk about ARP again. It will send a ARP request that will be a broadcast request. Okay, who's Ram, and then your default gateway will respond that I am Ram. It will be what it is called. I'll tell you that also. Okay, if you know during the ARP, we will discuss this scenario again. So it will give its MAC address to this guy, and this guy knows the route to reach to this subnet. To reach to this subnet, this is my next stop, this interface. So it reaches here. Now this device knows about this interface, and the networks which it is learning on these interfaces. So it has the routing table. Now it knows to reach this address, this is the next stop. So packet will reach here. This guy knows, okay, this is directly connected on this. This is how I reach here. And then the return packet. So this is basically, I told you in the very beginning, this is how on a higher level routing, this is how it works. Okay. So this is the basic logic or what we are trying to achieve using the router. So basically to route a packet or to route something, a router need to know the destination address or the source. It can learn from basically possible routes and possible routes to know what are the multiple routes which are available, and then what is the best route available to deliver that particular packet or that data. Okay. This is pretty straightforward. I showed you that how this connected and all we will see when we will do the lab. I told you about static and routing. IP routing process. Okay, so this is again, pretty straightforward. What we talked is this is a device, how it comes to learn all these addresses. So when we will do our lab, we will, talk about this. So now and then to test the connection, it is doing a ping pong and all. So we'll talk about that, and we will talk